Between 1985 and 2000, she published a number of books in which she examines the contributions of her father to national consciousness and independence, recounts her experiences under Laurent Kabila, and asks whether her country is indeed decolonized. Today, she will be addressing the important issue of child labor and human rights in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Ms. Kasavubu.
Thank you, Professor Karen Bauer, for inviting me here. It's a real pleasure and it's a great honor for me. I would also like to thank the University of San Francisco for having accepted this opportunity. And of course, I am also grateful to my friends who came a long way to share this moment with us. As I have been asked to speak today about child labor and human rights, I mean, believe me, it takes a lot to bring these subjects here, because many things have been said, also many things have been written, but most of the time it was not the right truth of what was going on. So I brought here a paper in which we are just giving a summary of the situation today. And first of all, I would like that everyone here in this room, if you can accept the idea that you all have a smartphone in your hands. And believe me, every smartphone behind there is a sufferance of a child. There is also the blood of our children, because this smartphone and mobile phone needs a coltan, which is the up-to-date raw material that international community and all these companies are using. So
I'm not sure they can hear you. So if you can stand a bit closer. Sorry.
So should I just loud?
Just come a little bit
Okay,
closer.
a little bit close. Okay, thank you. So I was saying that it takes it takes a lot to bring these subjects here, because as I was just saying, you know, you all have a smartphone in your hand or a mobile phone, and behind this mobile phone there is always blood of our children. There is always sufferance of our people. And believe me, we know today that coltan is the up-to-date raw materials needed by industries here, but at what price? That's what we are going to try to understand today. I've brought here a paper where we have a summary of the situation. Please note that 20% of exported cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this is done not legally, but most of the time illegally. And I will explain why and how. And also, it is mentioned here, after a report of UNICEF, that this is due to chronic mismanagement and bankruptcy of the country. But I think it's not really true. It's not only a matter of mismanagement. I think it's a plot, international plot against the Congo, and I will also say why. And if ever I forget something, you can always come up with the question in the second part of this meeting. And thirdly, there is also mentioned here that war by Rwanda and Uganda and Burundi in a smaller scale is also responsible of this situation. But to this specific point, I would like to point out that why should be in war with Rwanda, a small country? Congo has never provoked any country. So this also has an explanation, and we will give you the point. So when we say child labor, it means most of the time that anyone below 18 years of age is considered as a child. But in this specific case, we see most of the time children, boys and girls, sometimes girls, more boys, around 10 years of age, 11 years of age, who are digging the soil just to get some raw materials and to bring it to all these companies. And how much do they earn per day? Maybe $1 or $1.50 or at the maximum $2. So how can you believe that a child who earns $1 per day can really afford, to help his or her family? So immediately you can see that there is something wrong. There is something unfair in this situation. So 25% of our children don't go to school. And you see that this so-called mismanagement has an immediate effect our education. So now let's see, as introduction, what does Democratic Republic of Congo means in all this situation. And I would like first to tell you that we face instead a modern slavery based on violation of human rights, basic human rights. And we are so astonished to see the silence of the international community over this tragedy. We've often heard from leaders of the West, free world, that, oh, Congo is too big, Congo, no, it's a continent, it's just impossible to let this country be managed by the Congolese, we should just split the Congo, etc. We also heard former president of France saying that, oh no, we should now take control of the eastern part so that better be divided. We don't know on what basis this president should just decide one day that Congo should be divided or should be split in different sectors. So this brought the situation that all that is illegally has become legal, and all that is wrong has become good. And rule of law now is out of law, and democracy becomes autocracy. But the logic of keeping this situation goes always behind one system that should have one strong man. And yesterday it was Mobutu's regime. He was the strong man to keep control of this neo-colonialism strategy. And today the strong man, believe me, it's not Kabila, it's Kagame. That is why it is said here in this small report that war by Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi. And I even think that Kagame himself is an instrument used by the international community and some companies to make this situation. So, if you can remember 1 century ago, when industrialization and economy here in Western country was really, really important, you had this rubber revolution, you have also agriculture, and where was the answer for Western country? It was in Congo that they could find the raw materials. But every single time they found this raw material, by that time, 1 century ago, we had this Congo Free State under the rule of King Leopold II. And this was going along with abuse of human rights. We had our people mutilated, etc. And so it brought colonialism. And 100 years later, we have another industrialization revolution, which is technology with coltan, as I've just mentioned here. And where do international community find again the answers for the raw materials? It's again in Congo. But this time again, we have abuse of human rights that comes along this revolution. So how did Congo got along to run this situation? Of course, we had our fight for decolonization and independence. But to know exactly why Congo is exposed to such a tragedy, it's just because in Congo, instead of this mismanagement, there is also an awareness of what we mean as a country. And Congo was meant to remain very close of international community just because of strategic raw material during World War II was also the opportunity for free world to overcome over Hitler. It's the uranium, this raw material and mineral resources that was used for the bomb that was, hung over Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So that was the way out to overcome this World War II. So Congo was in the midst of the confrontation during World War II and was still in the midst of the confrontation East and West in the 60s because, of course, this strategic raw material should not go to the communism. It should remain on the side of the West. So for a country, I believe, whose destiny was to remain along with the free world, we don't understand why human rights today is just ignored, or sometimes a few papers, sometimes front lines, but never followed by decisions undertaken by the Western leaders. But instead, what we see is the split of the country, and I will tell you how. When Mobutu took over power in 1965, one good decision he took was Bakajika law. This Bakajika law was the guarantee to protect our soil and our land, and anyone who would come to Congo to make business will have to deal with the legal authorities. And this was the key argument to protect the integrity of Congo. And what have we seen later on after the fall of Mobutu's regime? Belgium came around. So this is the other aspect of this tragedy we are living in Congo. That the former colonialist, as we say, is always around to take decision because of his role, his key role in our history. So Belgium came after election. So the liberals who didn't accept our independence, they took over from the Christians. And the Christians who were ready to give up and to recommend that change should come to Congo, they didn't have a grip anymore on the situation. So when the Belgian liberals came to power in the turn of the century, 1999 and 2000, the first thing they did was to look after a new strongman, and I mentioned Kagame. And through this strongman to have a weak state leadership in Congo. And here comes Kabila. And Kabila is just a commissioner of Kagame, who is the instrument of the international community. So through Kagame, all these companies can come illegally and plunder the country as they wish. Why? Because the Belgians, they went to see Kabila and say, oh no, you should just interrupt this law, you should just stop the Bakajika law, because Congo must become again an open land where everyone can come and do whatever they want. And that's exactly what Kabila did, under the sponsorship of Kagame. So, but what international community maybe didn't know, that there was another agenda from Rwanda, And that is why they say that there is a war of Rwanda and Uganda and Burundi. Because this specificity of these three countries is that it's a Tutsi land. And there was an ambition to recover from the past, because according to what Kagame says, oh no, Eastern Congo belongs to Rwanda. Therefore, we should take again this eastern part. So how could he do it? How could he achieve this goal? Just by provoking war and rebellions. That's why since over the 20 last years, you've always heard that, oh, Congo is facing rebellions and all the killers of the genocide of 1994, they flew to Congo, so they should pursue these genocidaires and so on. So that's how Kagame got his step in Congo. And I would like here to tell you that he was appointed to do so. Because what have we heard? That, oh, the population of the world is too massive. We should reduce. No, Congo shouldn't grow. No, the rate of mortality should now be increased so that we can keep control. And we are victims of this view too. That is why, instead of letting this plundering go on, then Kagame started this second agenda. So what Kabila is doing by trying to insist, by trying to remain in power, is just because this plan of killing Congolese, of replacing Congolese by Tutsi is not finished yet. So they have to achieve it. This is what is behind all these scenarios. So we look now as if it were another far west in Congo. So the battlefield is always our population. It's always the political leaders, and it's also manipulation, it's also corruption, and so forth. So women in this are paying a high price. That's why saying that human rights is a big issue, that is true. So how do now these human rights abuses take place in Congo? I can tell you, and maybe give you some description. You see, behind one conquest, you always have a company. And how should this company make profit if they don't use our children? Nobody knows what happens. They just come in, they hire their services, and on the other hand, you have Kagame who has to rush so that instead of having Congolese, you have Tutsi who comes to take the place, so that within 10 or 15 years, he can justify, I mean, no, here it's our population. There are no Congolese. How can you say that this is a Congolese territory? So this is the spirit that is behind all this. And when they kill people, it's to help them to get these children at their disposal. They will take a husband, they will take a wife, or maybe set fire in the village so that people can, move away. They go to the deep forest, but in the deep forest they meet rebels, and those rebels, they rape the wife, and the man is there. Sometimes also they rape the little girl, they rape also all the family, so that by reducing the fertility, because all these wives raped, facing massive massacre, one day they cannot give birth anymore. And Dr. Mukwege, who has been awarded so many times, he has this experience by saying that many wives that he had to, put under surgery, they cannot give birth anymore. But this is done on purpose, because If you accept that, oh no, the population of Central Africa is too massive, we should reduce. How can you reduce such a population? You just have to stop women to give birth. So if you stop women to give birth, how can you do it in a peaceful context? You have to create provocative situation. You have to create war, so that people in this mixed situation, so you can have the explanation and do all these wrong things. So, by reducing, by killing women, by destroying our bodies as women, as mothers, as little girls, of course, within 5-10 years, you will have a reduction of the rate of productivity. And at the same time, the rebels comes in with their fellow citizens. They take the place of the Congolese. They give birth, but to Rwandese citizens. So maybe in 10 years, you can say, no, 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 it has never belonged to Congo, this territory. It belongs to Rwanda. This is the objective. And I'm so sad to see that nobody cares about this aspect of the things. Mr. Kagame travels all around the world, peacefully, happily, rewarded. Oh no, he's developing his country, yes, but under the sufferance of the people of the Congo. This is the price we pay. So, companies today, they put their headquarters in Rwanda. As now, you can know that there is a factory, there is a manufacturer unity, entity, you know, in Rwanda, near Kigali, for oil exploitation. But you see it in Kigali, but they pump under the soil and they go as far as Congo. You see, the Lake Kivu is not far from that. So this is the situation we are just facing. So I don't think that it is necessary to kill people, to kill our children, to make profit. It's perfectly possible to make profit and to deal with a real state leadership responsible on a win-win partnership. This is possible. Why should people of Congo be killed on a monthly basis every time? So this, I think, needs that we return to a fair play with partners. And even MONUSCO, who is there, pretending to protect population, is absolutely powerless, or if not powerless, is absolutely indifferent because of this plot through which MONUSCO also is part of. Because, let me tell you, children who are hired to dig soil and to work under difficult conditions, sometimes empty-handed, and they go very deep in the soil. They breathe this toxic dust, but there is no healthcare unity to help them, to save them. So what happens a few times later, they die, and nobody cares about it. So you see that this has an immediate effect on education, because the more they leave school, the more they escape from school, the more we lose this possibility of recovering in terms of a vital society that is just inclined to do the best for the development of its own people. So let me also add something, that this is how they do. There is also another example I can give you, is that, the little girls of 4 years old too are raped. Please note it. They are raped. And there is no pity for them. Orphans are taken away, and they come, the labor, the child labor for all these companies. So now I think it takes also a sense of a responsibility for you to go and see all those leaders of these companies and maybe to make a petition so that they can know that it is high time to stop all this. they mustn't come and say, oh no, Chinese are around, or Lebanese are around. No, this has to do with the security, international security too. Because in a country where children, instead of going to school, they are used to make profit under these conditions. So, I mean, this territory will come very soon, a place where terrorism will take place. And who is able today to predict what will become of this country if we let terrorism take a large place? Nobody can tell. But what is certain, that terrorism will take place if we don't make a stop to this situation. So there is a boss who is used by international community to plunder the country and to install industries in his country, and everyone don't care because, oh no, Rwanda is developing, but the sufferance of people of Congo is just ignored. There is a commissioner in Congo who is acting under this sponsorship, and he has the right to remain in power, he has the right to kill Congolese people, he has the right to organize rigged elections, he has all permissions to do whatever he wants, and this is also unfair. So I think that we need to do something. And I have some answers too, because of course, one thing is to have pity, to be sorry for this situation, but responsibility takes also to bring some solutions. And I think that to help Congo and to help all the sub-region, it needs that economy must take the priority, because through economy and also through a real responsible state leadership in Congo, a leadership chosen by the people, not imposed by external interferences. And this will allow us to have a recovery of our country. And I think that the rule of law will be the best guarantee for all these companies who have something to do. We don't deny that they are useful. No, we don't deny that. But what we do not accept is that they accept to kill our people just because it has to be done in a rush position, and it has to be done fast. They have to gain really quickly, and I mean without paying any tax anyway. So we will set economy as a priority, because through economy we can now create new jobs. If we create new jobs, therefore, it means that education also is coming along, and if education is taken into account, then our children, instead of just being hired by, all these mess, they can now have another chance to recover. And those for whom it is too late to do so, they can be reinserted in some social organization, so that we can, keep all these talented together and help our country. And also, through economy, we can have a better social welfare. We can also have the ambition that public health can also have some, key role to play. Because today, our hospitals don't exist anymore. You go to the hospital to die, not to get a therapy and then recover and go home happily. No, you go to the hospital today to all sorts of evil things coming, and sometimes also there is a traffic of human organs. So you see, in one country you have all these tragedies. So I think it's a little bit too much. So let me tell you that there is much to say, but I don't want to submerge you by all these different things. But just know that for us, Congolese, it is another genocide of our people. We name it so because it is a genocide. And we are now standing to fight against what is wrong. And we think that Congo deserves better than what is happening today. And we think also that the founders of our country would like us also to do the best we can to help this situation. We have nothing against the international community. Maybe for some of the countries in the international community, maybe they are manipulated because there is also some scapegoats in the international community. So then let us inform them that there are bad things going on and that Kagame, he may develop his country, but I want you to know that this is done with the blood of the children of Democratic Republic of Congo. We have done nothing against people, other countries. We have 9 neighbors around Congo, and never have you heard that Congo provoked another country. No, we are just submitted to some greedy leaders in external world. But I think that now time has come also that we earn our own democracy. And I would like just to end my little speech, because of course I give importance to the questions you may have to bring here, that we need a safety country. Internal and Western world, free world, United States of America, where I'm standing now, needs also a safety Congo, because Congo, as an important provider of raw material, will always be at your side, as it was meant to be in the past. We have not changed this point of view. But this can only be achieved if we go hand to hand and if we accept to deal on a real fair partnership. This is my call. This is my appeal also. And I think that the wealth of Congo is not for the Congolese themselves. We need to work together. You have science and technology. We have raw materials. So who can prevent us to work together? Nobody. So I think that now, those who have a way to go to Washington should tell the administration, Trump administration, that they have been mistaken, because there are also some bad people, international community, who uses their position to manipulate. And if you don't really care about what is going on, you may believe them because, oh no, they were under colonial rule, they were there, it's how their history. But instead, no, they are just greedy people, and they don't care about human lives. So the last point I want here to make clear, Rwanda doesn't produce any raw material. So can you understand that some stock exchange now today takes place in Kigali? Where does it come from? What does it mean? I mean, so this is a question that I leave up to you, to know that Congo is at your side, and we are fighting to make it possible that Congo can recover, Congo can be restored, and Congo can play a key role in Central Africa, because if it doesn't mean so, then we will have serious problems in the years to come. And it will go, you know, nobody will control this situation. And I think that the terrorism, once it sticks in Congo, I think explosion will come. Because uranium is still in Congo. So can you accept that this uranium be sold to Koreans, North Koreans, or Iranian, or those spots of conflicts today? People coming from Iran dealt with Kagame and Kabila. They got raw materials from Congo. Why? Because we don't have democracy, because Kagame is just cheating, he's just painting his own house pretty, but behind he's just plundering because he wants an empire, Tutsi empire, and this involves northern, eastern, and central eastern of Congo. And he's not alone. President of Uganda, of course, another Tutsi, is also side by side with Kagame. So this is the truth, believe me. And this is my word for today. I'm at your disposal for some questions, and thank you for being here.
Some facts that I didn't know, so thank you. We all know people in Congo. Some of us here have relatives, others have friends in Congo. So I have two questions. One, what should we be saying to the people we know in Congo? What do you recommend that they do? The other side is, what do you recommend that we do? We are residents of the United States. I know that right now there is a huge comprehensive bill in front of the House of Representatives, and I know friends of mine have gone to Washington and lobbied that this gets passed and gets passed quickly. I don't know if you are aware of it, and I forgot the number. But other than that, what do you recommend that all of us do? I mean, we can talk and talk and talk about how bad it is, but that means we need to take action.
Should we take one or two more questions?
Thank you for your very provocative talk. I have two quick questions. One, the way that you frame this situation is a plot by the West against the people of Congo. And I'm just wondering what the so-called West gains from pitting Rwanda against the DRC, thereby ensuring continued conflict and instability in Africa's largest country. So in other words, what does the West gain from this continued instability? And my second question, you've made a compelling case against Paul Kagame, but I'm wondering how you would respond to allegations against Joseph Kabila and his government and all of the mining concessions that he's signed and his family has signed with foreign companies, as well as the numerous human rights violations against the Congolese government and military. Thank you.
We'll take those questions for now. Sorry.
Yes, I think that for the first question, I would say that what we need at first step is to diverse our communication. If we can go further, if we can inform people, if we can have also open media, your medias can also open their doors to, to give these messages, because some of them don't. So if we can have opportunity to explain more and more through your medias, this is the first step about communication. And secondly, as citizens, I think that petitions are always welcome every time. And I think also, if you know a senator somewhere, if you know members of the Congress somewhere, please keep in touch with them and tell them that as American citizens, your conscience doesn't allow you to accept this, because Congo has always been an ally, and we've played a key role through the past years. So why should we now be submitted to these tragedies just because, I don't want to mention names here, but I'm sure you can understand also, I must be cautious, but I know that some authorities here in America have shares in some companies. So maybe, you saw, a human being is always a human being with weaknesses and, moments also of strength. But some of them also did wrong things. And I mean, it's up to you to denounce it, because I am welcome here. And today it's not maybe the day to mention names, but I can assure you that if you touch your members of Congress and some senators, they can do a lot for us, because they've done so when we had our first step of hope for democratization in the 90s. But unfortunately, this effort was just stopped when Mobutu's regime ended. And after that, we had these rebellions through which all these companies are coming to plunder with their commissioner on the spot, who is Kabila. So I think communication and maybe contact with the members who are influent in Congress and the Senate of the United States of America. I think they can do, they have the legality to do things. They have the authorities also to mention and maybe to influence also the administration to do things, because I believe that the United States of America remains this country very important, who can, I mean, give an idea and all the other countries can follow, you see. But so far we haven't seen yet this administration take necessary steps to help us. But I think it was only maybe lack of facts, as you have mentioned here, to be happy to know things that you didn't, that you ignored before. So about West, I mean West international community. Of course, it's a number of countries. I can tell you, Germany is a member of the West. France, Belgium, even if it's a small country, but you know, in the insight of history of Africa, I mean, it counts because they had their rule over such a huge country like the Congo. And also you have Great Britain, you have, of course, the United States of America, and I think those are the key actors. But in addition, and that's what makes the difference with the 60s, today you also have this other bloc. You have Russia, you have China, you have also, maybe in a smaller scale, you have all those countries like India, but you know, Southeast Asia. They are now, you know, becoming also industrialized countries who look very close to what is happening to Congo. So it makes it maybe a leadership, competitive leadership internationally. So that's also what makes the situation in Congo very complex. But I know that Russia and China, they don't come and interfere in domestic affairs in Congo. They come to do business. And as long as the climate business is just anarchy, of course they take advantage of the situation. But countries like the traditional USA, Great Britain, and sometimes especially France and Belgium, they interfere in domestic affairs. So they always want to choose our leaders. Instead of having a free, fair elections, they come with rigged mechanism of elections. And this is also the situation we have today. We are saying that it is not possible to go and have fair elections in a country where it is occupation. We are under occupation, Rwandese occupation, in the administration, in the army, everywhere. People are really exposed to pressure, to intimidation, etc. So, but who is willing for these elections? France, Belgium. But majority of Congolese don't want those elections. So how can you explain that? They always come to interfere in the choice of the people. So you see, this is international community. And this is international community that, you know, sponsors what I've just denounced here as the action of Paul Kagame in Congo through Kabila. And let me tell you also, Kabila is not the son of Kabila, as maybe you were informed. He was just a puppet that they put there because Kagame thought that, no, Congo needs, for this plundering system, for this anarchy to continue, Congo must have a weak state leadership. So he was the weak man. And now, yeah, the outlaw, etc. You have the answer. That's why we have this destabilization, because there is a competition between all these countries I've just mentioned here who interfere continuously, but they don't give up. But now they feel anyway that the people have stood up. So I don't know what would become within the 2 months ahead, but anyway, I think that Kabila must go. So this is the first step. And in addition to that, truth must be now put on the table. And if there is somebody here who has maybe a link with Kagame or so, no matter. It is our country. We have the legal right to fight for the integrity of Democratic Republic of Congo. This is the contract that we got in June 1960, and nobody came along to say, oh no, there is another conference that changed the borderline. We still are Democratic Republic of Congo, and we are fighting for that. So when Kagame comes in with allegations that no, I must make sure that my borderline is safe because all the genocidaires, those who killed the Tutsis in 1994, you know, they don't come back, etc. This was 20 years ago. Do they have now children who are also killers? No. So this was just an excuse to come to plunder because he is under the control of these companies who are coming to plunder our nation.
See a couple more questions?
First of all, I would just say, I would like to say that it's very much an honor to have you here, here in the U.S., visiting us here in California. And so I want to thank you for coming. But I'm trying to understand the motivation of, you refer to the West, which would be certain companies, Kagame's motivations, but you said that 20% of the coltan produced globally comes from DRC. So that means that 80% is coming from elsewhere. So I'm wondering why these companies, if they can deal elsewhere, why do they prefer to deal with insecure Eastern DRC? And is the coltan cheaper that comes from DRC than buying coltan from elsewhere? Or what's the motivation behind Western support for this Kagame plot and the plundering?
Well, I'd like to end on a positive note. The people that we're involved with in the Congo Mission Project were very excited to hear that Dr. Mukwege won the Nobel Peace Prize. I would like to have your opinion on what effect can this have on the Congo, on Kabila, and on its safety.
Thank you so much, Mama Kasavubu. I think they didn't introduce too much about your dad being the first president of Congo. And I remember when I was studying in high school in Congo, your dad was fighting for the Congo independence, not the Congo Democratic Republic of Congo or Zaire. If you read one paragraph I read in high school, I think some of the questions come to the examen d'etat. Before you graduate from high school, there's a civic class you have to do the exams. So the father was fighting for Congo independent. So, and the Congo, you know, it changed the name. It was a free state, and under Belgium, Congo independent, and then Zaire, Congo Democratic Republic, and then Zaire, and now we go to Congo Democratic. And I go back to one of our elder here who was talking, he usually said that Congo, we are not independent. And then for your fact and what you just present to us right now, I feel like we're still not independent. So my question is, how the Congo now, we can be independent, and from whom we're going to ask that independence? Thank you.
Okay, the motivation, I think, for these companies to come to Congo, we are talking here about child labor, haven't we? So this child labor, as I said, I mean, it's cheaper. Huh? It's so easy to just hire the services of little kids and nobody knows, and nobody can pursue, and then you make a big profit. And also let me tell you that there is not only coltan, but we have also 50 to 60% of cobalt production comes from DRC. And as you know, today cobalt, it's necessary for this electric, motor car, etc. It's a very strategic raw material for today, cobalt. So put this together, and then you understand easily that it's cheaper to go to Congo because there is no control. No control, no tax to pay. Elsewhere, it's expensive because you have countries better organized under a leadership, even if with some difficulties, but leadership, organized also, well settled. So it's quite difficult to have the same conditions. So here you go fast, you earn fast, and you have your profit fast, massive profit. So I think this climate, encourages some companies to do so. It's just as simple as that. So you talked about safety, huh? The safety in Congo. Excuse me, have I understood exactly what you've said?
You asked about Dr. Mukwege.
Your question.
You asked about Dr. Mukwege and what the recognition might mean.
Winning the Nobel
Yes,
Prize.
yes. Of course, the talent of Dr. Mukwege, we acknowledge that. But it comes as a consequence of these human rights abuses. He goes, he takes women under surgery every day. But this is the action he undertakes on the spot. But the causes of this drama, until today, it's unsolved, and the causes are political. So Dr. Mukwege finds himself, he's rewarded, but it doesn't stop. He must continue to save all these women, as I said, because the plan is to diminish our population and through the cancellation of the capacity of productivity of the women and little girls. That's why the targets are women and little girls, because within 10 or 15 years, no more Congolese can be, no more inhabitants, etc. So you put Rwandese in place of Congolese. So Dr. Mukwege hasn't the power to change things. He can only accept the reward he is getting. But the causes, as I said, it's political. And behind this, you have what I call the international community, who is part of this consequence, of this politic, you see? Because we've heard, oh no, the population is too numerous, we should reduce, and they go to the Congo. And on the other side, you have also Ebola crisis. It always happens to the same place, and nobody talks about it. Oh no, the doctors of OMS have found some vaccines, etc., but it always comes again. How will they stop? So they were talking about AIDS many years ago. We have therapy, etc. But Ebola always comes. So it has a need to eliminate, periodically our people. So I think that Dr. Mukwege, people think that he can be some kind of help in a political situation because of this aura that he has got, etc. But he's not a politician. So he's a good doctor, but maybe he has some limits in doing politics. He needs maybe to have a deputy, in politics. So, but anyway, if ever circumstances allow him to come to power, I think I have nothing to do to say against that, because he's talented, he knows the problem, he has the diagnosis not only medically but also politically, because he sees what rebels are doing. He sees how fierce they are, how mutilation means to all this population. He sees that every day. So I even wonder how strong he can be after having seen all these scenarios, because one must be very strong to keep on going, because it's sufferance every day. Okay, so I really acknowledge that he's a great man, but he needs help. Maybe what we are doing is also an addition to what he may become if ever he just skipped to go to politics. But he knows also that we are there. We are also fighting for politics, so I mean, everyone can do what he can at his place. So